All right. Adam, is it going to play the cool introduction, or is that only the introduction from the last
Welcome
one?
to today's
There it is.
episode of the Insurance, Life, and Everything in Between podcast. My name is Adam Brsan.
And I'm Chris Smith.
If you've yet to do so, hit that subscribe button so you never miss another episode. And if you love this podcast, don't forget to share it with a friend or colleague. We greatly appreciate your help and support.
Now, when you do that, I feel like I'm doing this and I'm actually making money in the process, but we're just really doing this because it's a fun thing to do. And today we have even more fun by having Waylon on today to discuss the most offensive letter I've ever received in the final expense business. Waylon, welcome on. Say hi, let everybody know that you're here, and then we can unpack this disaster that came in the mailbox.
What's up, fellas? Thank you guys for having me on. It's a pleasure. Appreciate it.
Awesome. Adam, I know that we've already gotten your hot take on this, so you're not as hot yet as some people are, but my text messages, my DMs, my everythings are lit up because they're concerned about this letter that the clients have received, the clients that they have taken care of, carrier that they were very loyal to for quite a long time. And we're not going to say the name because I still like receiving money in my bank account from them, but we're hurt. What do you think, before I kind of dissect this letter anonymously, your thoughts are if a carrier terminated an agent or agency and the consumer, Miss Betty at home in her moo-moo, got a letter that said, your agent no longer works for the company and don't let him replace it? What do you think?
Well, I could see if the agent was just doing stuff that they weren't supposed to be doing. You know, if they were doing stuff unethical, if they were writing fraudulent business, replacing business. Yeah, I mean, I don't see a reason why a company shouldn't send out a letter like that in a situation like that. But in like this mass termination sort of thing where no one was really not doing things the right way, it just makes the agent look bad to the client. And then you got to worry about, well, now I got to go back and look. Let's see, who did I write so I can call them and let them know I'm still here. Yeah.
No, don't say it. Don't say it. Cut that part out.
Sorry about that.
Cut that part out. Waylon, anonymously, let's just assume a carrier that will remain nameless terminated your entire downline. It's happened before. Sometimes it was over $100 of debt. That's crazy. Why would they do that? And then they sent everybody a letter telling the consumer that this had happened. How would you feel about such a thing at the agency owner level?
You know, it's interesting to me now, especially because, I mean, I've spent the last 28 months of my life diversifying. So if you would have asked me that question 2 years ago, I mean, I would have been devastated. I would have been angry, very angry. I might have sent a letter to the company from all my agents, like, hey, let's write letters and send them to them. See how that makes them feel. But now it's like, it just kind of it shows how important it is to diversify a little bit. Like, if you're doing just one thing, because that's how I grew up in the business, like it was like, pick what you do and do that really well. It used to be you could make it like that and make a damn good living doing it that way. Like just being simple. I'm a FE door knocker and you can make hundreds of thousands of dollars a year doing that. It's unfortunately, the business isn't like that anymore. Marketing is just so expensive. And then, you know, you've got carriers, almost seems like they're out to get you. And it's like, why are you doing this? Like, that doesn't make any sense for you to, one, terminate your distribution, but then two, double down on terminating them by kind of mother effing them and being like, oh yeah, your agent stinks, call us. It's like, what's the play there? So while most of those decisions are just puzzling at this point, it just makes me think of like the value in diversifying outside of just obviously being able to do multiple things, just not sweating things when your only way to make money is that one scope. Like, if that's the only way you have to make money and you're a final expense guy or you're a medic, whatever it is that you do, and then the carrier that paying your bills terminates you one day and then tries to take all your people the next, it's like, now what? Like, what do we do next? But when you're doing 47 different things, it's like, I mean, they suck and this is annoying, but at least we have other avenues. So,
yeah. I also think that it comes down to recognizing that we as the agency, as a distribution, as the agent, are merely outsourced labor to these carriers. Like, you're not the insurance company. And as much as it pains us to think this and to say this and to hear this, we're not the reinsurance company. We're not the TPA. We're not the commissions department. We're just the dude that was dumb enough to knock in the door in the hood and sit to the left of the cat piss and sell the policy and make great money doing it. But we're really just the outsourced labor, right?
Yep, exactly. And I mean, it's like that's a harsh way to put it, but in all reality, these carriers, the people that build these products, there's a lot more that goes into it, I think, than people recognize or realize, especially when you're in the field and like what you do is it's very nuanced. If you're good at what you do, it's buy direct mail leads, buy leads, door knock those leads, call those leads, sell them insurance. So to us, it's inconsequential to an extent on how the product was built, how it was developed, how it was funded, how it's being funded, what the profit loss looks like on it year over year, what the claims look like. Look, door knock and Waylon doesn't care about that, quite frankly. So to us, it's inconsequential. But we got to realize these carriers are answering to sometimes 10, 20, 30 people at a time to be able to justify continuing bringing bodies into this cesspool of final expense dead clients. So it's just, from a carrier's perspective, the larger you get, the more you understand where they're coming from, but it isn't fun. It's not fun going to your distribution that's like falling in love with the product and being like, well, it's gone. That only happens, it seems like every 2 years now there's an awesome product that comes out that gets shelved.
Yeah. I felt like a fool a couple times. We onboarded a new toy and that toy was taken away from us quicker than I could have imagined. And I felt like the fool for rolling it out and promoting it and training it. But I didn't have any control over the fact that it was just as quickly taken away from us.
Yep.
But Adam wanted to ask a lot about who Waylon was. And you said something very interesting that years ago, this would have been devastating. Like you would have been in the bathroom and been in there for hours. But now it's like, all right, let's roll with it. So talk to us, and maybe Adam, I'll let you take the mic after that. Waylon then, Waylon now, in these big picture problems as they take place.
Yeah, I mean, it's a long story, but yeah, people that don't know, like I started when I was 18, 19. In my first year, I only had a health insurance license. So most people don't know that. For 13 months, I didn't even have a life license. I was told by the person that recruited me, I didn't need it. Like, yeah, you don't need it. You're good. You just sell health insurance. You make a living. You'll be killing it. So me being me, not wanting to listen to anybody, got my health license and moved out of my friend's mom and dad's house and was like, screw this. I'm going to be rich. I'm going to be the richest health insurance agent ever. Well, I wasn't. I'll just let you guys know. I was at a 30% commission, 2% renewal, a 5-year vesting window, and no leads. And when I say no leads, it wasn't like, oh, I couldn't afford leads. No. There was no leads for sale. You couldn't get leads, didn't exist for cancer, because that's what I did. I was like a half a tick off of being a Jehovah's Witness for 13 months, except instead of selling the Bible and the good word, I was selling cancer. And it's not nearly as fun, I can tell you. So that first year was special. But again, I wouldn't trade it for the world. It was really what shaped my entire career into what it is today. If anything I think is bad or like, oh, this is a hard day or things aren't going well, it's like, what sucks is breaking down in your Buick after knocking on 140 doors and getting told no every single time. And not just no, I didn't fill that out. Just no, get off my porch. I'm going to shoot you. Because that's pretty much what it was. It was, I mean, and I don't blame them. I'm literally showing up at your house, a stranger, telling you need to worry about getting cancer. Like, if you can get into a house talking about that and then sell something, you got something going. So, yeah, I mean, from there, almost quit insurance. I mean, I was one more job interview at UPS from driving Big Brown around. They're a union company, so it's a 2-cycle interview process. Had to pass a drug test and then start. And I went back for my second round and like sat in my car and was like, dude, I can't do this. Like, I'm unemployable. Like, I wouldn't even hire me. I can't do this. So went back to the drawing board, searched on Google about 74 different ways how to make fast money in insurance. Final expense seemed to be what everybody was doing to make fast money in 2016, 17. So started studying. Meanwhile, selling fire sticks out of my in my underwear out of my apartment. I could buy them for 40, sell them for 60. That's what paid my rent. And on Bryce Road in Columbus, Ohio. And got my life license. Cold door knocked while I waited on my direct mail leads to come back from good old RGI. And the rest was history. I won Agent of the Year for a carrier. was like, this is pretty easy. I got names on paper. They want to talk to me. That's great. I'm going to everybody's house. This is going to be awesome. Did that for, man, I had no team for the first 8. When Chris and I met, I didn't have a team. I don't think. It was just me on Facebook. I was just Waylon agent doing what he was doing. We were just working direct mail leads and going to see people and talking about, their ingrown toenails and their purple feet and their gabapentin and writing policies. And fast forward from there, man, I just helped a bunch of people on the Facebook forums, brought on a couple buddies. I had like 4 agents, all from my hometown, and went from 4 to about 700 in a week. A fistful of MGAs left a captive company. For whatever reason, God only knows why, they called me to throw my hat in the ring to make an offer. And they picked me. I still to this day don't know why. That's between me and God. When I get up there, hopefully someday, it'll be the first question I have. Like, what the hell? What were you thinking? And made it work. And I mean, you talk about drinking from a fire hose. I had contracts at about 19 FMOs at that point. And to get contracted with us, it was basically just me staying up all night on white monsters and hopes and dreams that hopefully the paperwork I'm filling out's the right one and going to the right place. Because at that point, I had no idea what the heck I was doing. We had a lead program and good contracts is all we had at that point. So yeah, did that for 3 years. We were just a little boutique final expense agency. Chris, you joined like 2.5 years into that, I think. We sat down and good old High Bank in Columbus and made it work, and it made sense, and we started working together. And then we really scaled and introduced a lot of different things over the last, I'd say, 2-3 years. So we, again, I say we went to about 700 today, current day. We have about 4,800 contracted brokers in different directions, but we're much more diverse. We're doing, quite a bit of Medicare, still a good bit of life insurance, final expense, mortgage protection, ACA, annuities, IULs. We're introducing AUM, so assets under management, here in the next 90 days. So we're diversifying quite a bit, introducing programs. I own a mail house now, at least 25% of one, which, 6 years ago, if you just said I was going to own a mail house, I would have laughed my ass off at you and been like, you're stupid. Mail house. I don't even like mail coming to my house. So yeah, here we are. We're doing podcasts.
Absolutely. Adam, what question do you want to throw his way to really unpack after that opening who he is, how he got to where he is, and how this is beneficial to those watching today?
Well, I mean, I think that a lot of brand new agents also watch our podcast or listen to our podcast. And I mean, heck, how old are you, Waylon?
28 a week and a half ago, something like that. Yeah.
All right.
28.
And you got in the business. So you've been in the business about what, 9 years now?
9 years, on 9.
18.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
I guess really the main thing would just be someone who's like brand new, that they see the value in maybe building and growing. What are some steps that they could take to kind of build and grow? And I mean, I think social media is a good part of it these days, but there's got to be other avenues outside of just that to be able to get people to get people to want to work for you.
Yeah. I think, the best advice I can give there is, the people that you attract and the people that decide to work with you are really just typically an extension of you. So you've got to become the kind of person that you would want to work with, is number one, before you really get anybody. Because if you've got bad habits, or, you're very emotionally charged, or just whatever list of things that are difficult to manage, the people you bring on are going to have a lot of those same qualities at some point. I'm not saying initially. Any recruit that you talk to, is freaking Jordan Belfort or thinks they're Grant Cardone the first call. But 3 months later, when they're 3 leads short and the world is literally coming to an end, you know what you get. So the first things first is putting the work in, becoming, what it is that you want to duplicate. Once you've done that, there's plenty of avenues. So everybody's on the social media recruiting train. That's gotten saturated at this point, to be honest. But content is the next biggest thing. Just content. Like, I'm a believer that just volume of content is better than like, oh, we got to put out the very best thing. It's like, yeah, but the best it's subjective. Like, an agent that thinks that what you say is the best isn't going to agree, with an agent that thinks what Chris says is the best. But you're looking for the person that thinks what you say is the best to call you and say, hey, I want to work with you. Because that's again, what you're building is a brand. And, there's going to be people that like what I said, and there's going to be plenty of people that think I'm a jackass, and that's great. I relish in that. Please, I want you to think I'm a jackass. That's great. So it's volume of content, because you're putting your stamp on all those things you're putting out there in the ether, whether it be a YouTube video or a Facebook reel or an Instagram post or whatever it is. All it takes is one little just second for that person to say, oh, it's Adam. Oh, it's Chris. Like, I know this guy, and then watch it and be like, you know what? I kind of agree with that. And then them finding you and saying, hey, what's your agency doing now? So that's the value that we have now. It's more so like, because the lead, like the recruiting leads, the whole like hiring services to do it for you, that's fine. But there's not really a personal touch. There's no better recruit than a person that's reaching out to you because of who you are. So
Well said. Well said. I think I've recruited one person off of calling through Facebook recruit leads. Turned out to be a good person until it turned out into being dead. But realistically, almost anyone and everyone that's ever spent time working with me or Adam or Waylon has come through this. Just saying things that we believe to be true and hoping to connect with someone who says, I also agree with that thing. How do I get a hold of them? Waylon, I don't want to steal Adam's mic on this, but I got to ask the question. Once you got him, you raised a very good point. The first time you really know him is when something kind of doesn't go the way it's supposed to. You get 23 leads instead of 26. Mm-hmm. They're not exactly 5 minutes from your house. How do you manage relationship issues? Because most of the time in this industry, the moment someone doesn't get along with who they're working with, they want to work with somebody else. So how do you manage the relationship side of maintaining once you've built that initial relationship?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, and I've matured a ton on this, especially in the last 3 years, I would say, because again, the management roles that I put myself in were pretty new to me. And, it's the one thing I didn't really do. I didn't have much mentorship, so it was kind of learning by doing. My best advice to anybody is just be direct, be stern, and whatever emotional response that you get out of that, just let it be. Don't respond with more emotion. Just be very direct. Be there for them. I'm not saying be a dick. They might take it as you being a dick. But if you've got 23 leads and they want 26, you saying, I'm so sorry, we're 3 leads short, isn't going to make it better. Hey, we have 23 leads. Here's other options to get the additional 3. Thank you. Not, hey, I understand, it's really hard when you got 3 less leads. No, doesn't take. All that does, and I've been that guy a lot when I first started managing, it doesn't help anybody. It creates problems in the hierarchy typically, because then it just creates issues, honestly, when you let emotions be the part that handles any of those types of issues. So taking emotion out of it and just being very like, here's the facts. You'd be amazed at how many texts or emails I type out, and I'm like, there's too many like maybes and buts in there. Like, I'm taking all that out. Here's what I know. Here's what we know today, and here's what we got. Here's our options to move forward from it. Other than that, there's the made up conjecture that people make up based off of their past history and things. It doesn't matter, because it's not going to affect that current situation. So just taking the emotions out of things when you're making decisions and just using what you know to be true in any scenario, it just saves a lot of time. And I think in the long run, it makes people want to work with you more. It's made people leave, I think, too, but it's also made people come back, because they go to the groups that are like, oh yeah, like we'll handle it. And then after like 3 months, it's like, I liked it a lot better when I actually knew where I stood and what was going on.
Yep. Adam, you were asking a question earlier that I'm sure you'd love to throw Waylon's way. Slow money versus fast money. You were watching a webinar on ACA and how it really doesn't work that way anymore anyway. But do you want to see his thoughts with a big diverse distribution on slow money versus fast money?
Yeah. I was telling Chris I was watching a webinar last night on ACA. I'm sure you've seen these systems that people put together where you can just, you make money while you're sleeping. You don't have to do anything but hit a few buttons on your computer and submit the applications, or at least that's how they make it sound. So to me, like I was telling Chris that all these people on this call are commenting about, man, how you can just make all this money. And I'm sitting there doing the math, and it's like, yeah, you could do well, but it's going to take a pretty big investment up front. And you're really not going to see much profit for probably at least the first 6 months. And that's
Yeah, I
what,
mean, and
a
that's
lot of people didn't think about before. You got to do the math on some of this stuff.
mhm. Yeah, I mean, we do a ton of ACA, and we got in pretty early, so we're grateful for that. I mean, this is my opinion. Okay, so could be wrong. I don't think it is, but it could be. Like the no call leads, the all these vendors and stuff that sell that way of doing business. I mean, it's great that you're getting awards on stage at a Go High Level convention, but when 37 agents lost their insurance license as a result of enrolling someone that didn't consent to it, not pretty. That's my biggest pet peeve about the industry as a whole, and then that just glorifies it. Like, tell me I would rather know the worst case scenario than the best case scenario every time in this industry. Give me the bad parts. Like, what's the worst thing you've seen happen to somebody, or like, what's been like the biggest pitfall for somebody? What should I not do, basically? So I can avoid that. Like, what should I not do? So the ACA stuff, it's just, can it be done? Yeah, if you're a great marketer and you're doing it compliantly and you know what you're doing. But the problem is it's getting people into something they don't know anything about. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I compare it to, like, if we posted a commission grid that was 198% on Facebook, I'd have 700 phone calls. But everybody on this call knows it isn't real.
198.
Yeah. So it's the
Yes.
same thing, Adam. Like, it's just like ignorance is bliss. And of course, we're business owners, and it pays us to learn about new avenues. And again, we, like, as an agency, we do a ton of ACA, but we also control the marketing. We're not doing no call leads. We actually talk to the people we're selling. And to your point, it's very good money, but it's slow money. It is slow money. The bonuses are nice, and I'm not telling anybody not to get into it. But when I talk to anybody that wants to do ACA, the first thing I ask them, like, look, here's how the money works. You're not going to see a dime for 60 days at minimum. And Chris can tell you this when he got into it a little bit as well. I was like, look, you're not going to see any money for 60 to 75 days. Nothing. Not 10 cents, not $35, none. But it's going to be compounding after that. And then with the bonuses and things that exist, long term, it makes a lot of sense to diversify into it if you have the capital to do so. But if you don't do that. I don't want to hear about your wife screaming at you because I told you the marketing was no. And that's a real world thing. I literally had a guy's wife call me and scream at me. I'm like, why are you yelling at me? I told the guy I wasn't going to get paid for 2 months. We can't pay rent. And I'm like, I'm sorry. Like,
Yeah.
So
you raised a good point there, and you almost quoted it out of this book right here. Trey Gowdy wrote a book, A Great Politician, works on Fox News now on Sunday nights. I don't know why he didn't run for president. I would have voted for him. You read his first book, you'll find out why he didn't. He said when he's talking about decision making, what's the worst case scenario? And I think that actually makes a lot of sense. The worst case scenario, if you get into ACA and you don't have any money, is you're homeless. Like, that's not good. Maybe that's not the best solution for you sales-wise at that point in time. So examining decisions in a logical process through reading and seeing other people's thoughts, I think it's brilliant. And you almost quoted that book chapter and verse. Yep. Adam, what else you got for Waylon, as we got about 5 or 7 more minutes before we wrap this up?
Well, you went from being yourself, one agent, getting into the business. You mentioned, suddenly you had 700. I guess it would be kind of like a two-parted question. What did you do to kind of keep all of those agents and all those groups kind of together, or as best as you could, to continue to grow and build? And then what do you do to keep up with all of the business? I mean, I went from being with a company where I was working with about 1,300 agents, but it was just one company. So it was not that hard to track business. It wasn't hard to keep up with stuff. It was easy to kind of look at the metrics and kind of see who's writing good quality business, who isn't. To me, that's like my biggest struggle right now is I don't have nearly as many agents I'm working with, but it's hard to keep up with who's doing what and where they're doing it. And we talk about the roll up debts in this business and all that stuff. To me, it's concerning when you can't keep up and keep track of your business and where it's coming from and who's writing it. Like, what do you do to kind of keep up with all that when you have, what do you say, like over 4,000 agents now that
Yeah.
are
Yeah.
doing
So
business under you?
yeah, it's a great question. So, and look, full transparency, there's no way in a brokerage model to fully keep up with all of it. That's just something you have to be okay and understand. It's unfortunate. I wish that weren't the answer, but it's a result of the model, right? So like an LOA model, you absolutely could keep track of all of it. But the LOA model has been so demonized industry wide for such a long time. Good luck recruiting anybody to that unless they don't have a license and they don't know anything, right? But the benefit to it is, look, we can track everything from application to debt to we got it all right here with all the companies. So the fact of the matter is, on a brokerage model, due to the model being what it is, and all the carriers having different systems, some have their own internal system, some use, one of the third-party vendors that do all these TPAs. It's just there's no uniform system that tracks commissions and agents and debt and all these things. So it's just, quite frankly, it's impossible to track it all. But as far as being efficient with it and doing the best possible, I think the number one answer that I've learned is hiring people to review reports daily and kind of turn the alarms on when things don't look good. Someone that just says, hey, we got an email that Johnny Agent wrote 26 grand yesterday. Like, well, that's not good. Let's turn off his advances. That isn't real. Let's turn off his advances and I'll call him. Like, give me 20 minutes. That's not real business. No, he didn't. No one does that.
Nobody does that.
So yeah, I don't know how many nephews and nieces this guy has, but no one does that. So having someone in place that kind of monitors those things as far as risk and knowing what's going on. Number two would be alignment. So aligning with someone like one person versus 27 people, because they'll have line of sight as well, and they'll be able to report back to you like, hey, I don't think this looks right. They wrote 20 Great Westerns, and then we turned that off, and then they wrote 20 CFGs or 20 SPLIs. Like, something's off. Let's figure this out. Instead of, when you've got 4 different uplines, different people are getting the reports, but you're not. So it can make it confusing there. And, the other thing would be simplification. So you don't need, as much fun as it is to try a new toy and try a new carrier, most of the time it's a waste of time. It's unfortunate, but the majority of the time it's a complete waste of time. So saying, look, like, you need 3 to 5 companies, and that's really the truth. That's all you need. You might want others, but you don't need them. Keeping it simple. So like when we had the 700 agents, I only had 5 companies. At that time we had Omaha, RNA, AMAM, AIG, because their GI back then was like, they gave it away. That was before their rate increases and everything. It was crazy. It was cheaper than the direct consumer Omaha is back then. And RNA took everybody. Like, if you had a pulse level, a phone call, oh, great news, Nancy. All 46 of your medications, you are approved. Like, we're good. We had somebody else, Oxford, because they had just come out with the Instarite, and we fell in love with them. So we literally had 5 companies. So simplifying it down to 5 companies gave us less work, hiring an admin to watch those reports and understand, and then just monitoring and touching base. And then the other part of that question is, how did you keep it all together? Just so, and this, my friend Tyler Reese, I was just with him this week, and we had the same philosophy. And like, we're not dictators. We're not here to tell you what to do and how to do it. We're just a platform. So the reason I've been able to grow, at least a major part of it, is I let people use what they want when they want. If they need a lead program, we got it. If they've got a lead program, great, use yours. Doesn't matter. Doesn't make me like you less, but it's fine. You need a contracting staff, we got it. You got one, great, use them. Like, that's awesome. We'll give you access. You can do it yourself. You need help with compliance and Medicare, we got a whole team. You've got a lawyer on staff, use them. I don't care. That's great. So the answer is really just allowing people to be who they wanted to be and build how they wanted to build. If they wanted to build an LOA model under us, great, do it. Don't come to us whining if somebody's mad about commissions. That's not our job. That's yours. So you can do it. If you want to, build a brokerage, awesome. we're here to help. We'll help you contract. We'll get you connected. We'll be fully transparent, get you the best levels possible, and move forward. If you want to use everything we got, you want to use our company name and be a part of UIP and be UIP, awesome. You can get UIP business cards. We'll send you a shirt. You'll look cool. Send us a picture. Like it's just about being a platform. And like, look, are there certain things we require? Yeah. I mean, you need to communicate with us. I'm not going to bring you on at 5-10% below me and just see you. Good luck. It doesn't make sense. And that was something that the industry did for a while, but I think these larger FMOs have learned their lesson now. When you get 2, 3, 4, 6, 800 grand of debt roll up, it's like, probably wasn't a great idea to have no margin and have, these guys right up against me and never talk to them. Probably wasn't my best call. But yeah, just being a platform, communicating with people and building it that way. That's been the biggest reason for the progression, I think.
I've always found that it's valuable to recognize what restaurant you're running, what convenience store you are, what big box retailer you're emulating, whatever your business model is, and to then completely own it. Because so many people get distracted by so many things and try to be everything to everyone and end up being completely broke in the process.
Yep.
And I think there's a lot of value to how you see that from a global perspective as well. We got maybe 60 or 90 seconds to go before we need to go and live our lives outside of this box right here. Adam, any closing thoughts?
No, like I said, I just I think it's pretty cool to see someone, 28 years old, do what you've done, and the amount of time that you've done it. I mean, you got such a long ways to go. I mean, it's just amazing to kind of see where you're at and the road ahead of really what could be. I mean, I don't even know. I mean, I know you do a ton of business. I don't know exactly how much, but I know it's a lot. And so, you're 13 years younger than me, but I'm looking forward to even learning more and more from you as we move forward here.
Yeah, man, I appreciate it. Appreciate both of you guys. I'm excited to keep building and growing and, diversify and get plans in place to keep growing. I mean, the beauty of, at least now, my advantage is that I'm 28 and not really looking to sell. And it's kind of well known in the industry. It's like, look, I'm not going anywhere. I want to keep growing it. For me, it's a legacy thing. So that's a big advantage for people and for recruiting as well. Like, hey, we work with a group that's not selling. Like, I want to keep investing in this, keep growing it, double down, triple down, quadruple down, and be a part of all the ebbs and flows. There's going to be rough months, rough quarters even, but usually ends up being a win at the end of the year. So, yeah, I mean, I appreciate you guys, and I'm excited.
Well said. Well said. Appreciate each of you guys being here today for our special crossover episode on the Insurance Life and Everything in Between podcast. Adam, play our exit song.
And this concludes another episode of the Insurance Life and Everything in Between podcast. If you like what you heard, don't forget to subscribe, share with a friend or colleague, and if you have any comments or suggestions for future episodes, please leave those too. Any input is greatly appreciated. Thank you.